Hi, my name's Crystal. I'm from the Leafy Loft, MTL, which is short for Montreal, if you don't already know. This week, I'm going to talk to you about propagation. Propagation means cutting your plants and reproducing them. So you're making baby plants out of the plants you already have without seeds, just from cuttings. People who have been collecting for a long time probably already know all about this. This is more of a video for the newbies in the community. So if you're new to collecting plants and you want to grow your collection at a faster pace without having to buy more plants, you can take the plants you have and multiply them just by cutting them. I'm going to talk to you about 5 different methods for propagation. The first one is, sorry, my cat's entering. You met Willow last time. This is Jojo. She's big and fluffy. Hopefully she will let me finish the video. Okay, so we're going to do 5 methods. One is water propagation. So we just use literally a glass of water. Super easy. One is using leca. I hope that it's showing up on the screen well. So leca are like little balls of clay, compressed clay. I'll explain the benefits of each one in a moment. A third one is sphagnum moss. Another one is called air layering. I don't have an example in front of me, but it does use plastic, and you could use string or something that ties the plastic around, and I'll explain more later, like I said. And the 5th method is called a chunk, and this is a chunk. I'm sure most people would be like, what are you talking about? How can you grow something from that? But believe it or not, you can. This one has been getting greener and greener as time has passed. It was cut many weeks ago. It is a Queen Anthurium chunk. So I'll explain a little bit more about that later on when we get to that section. When you're propagating, you have to think about where to cut. Some plants you're able to just take a single leaf and it'll propagate no problem. Some plants require that you find the place on the stem or the vine where you see a node, and you'll have to research each plant that you want to propagate beforehand to figure out if that's the situation for you. If you do have to find a node, this is what they look like. So you see this little line that wraps around the vine? Let me see if I can zoom in better. There we go. So you can see there's a line right there. That is the node. And there are little brown bumps around the node. Those are the places where the roots will grow from. So if you find one of them, and then you look around and you find another right up there, you want to cut in between the 2 nodes. So the other method is leca, and it's basically water propagation still. It's just with leca in the water. So you're going to want to put the cut plant piece with the node, if it is a plant that requires that, inside the little compressed clay balls called leca, just like so. And the benefit of this is that it holds the cutting in place. If you just use a cup of water, sometimes things will just pop out and fall over, and you might not realize that it is on the table for a while. And so it could dry out. So this helps to keep it steady and sturdy. That's the main benefit. And with both of these, you want to make sure that you are refreshing the water daily. Bacteria can grow in there, and you want to be really careful about that. And this is sphagnum moss. it's already been moistened. So with the sphagnum moss propagation method, you aren't going to have the glass full of water completely. It's just the moss that is going to be moistened. And the benefit of this is that you have air circulation around the newly forming roots, and which produces roots that are prepared to be in regular substrate, like potting soil or whatever mix you want to use. Whereas the other two methods with leca and straight water, you're going to end up with water roots, which it's okay, and it may be fine when you transition it into substrate, but it might also go into shock because the roots aren't prepared for that environment. So unless you're planning to do hydro or semi-hydro plant growing in the end, I do personally think it's better to use sphagnum moss or the air layering, which I'll talk about later. Yeah, so this is the sphagnum moss, and we're doing the same idea as we did with the leca. We're making some space, putting the node if the plant requires a node, or the tip of the leaf if that's a cut leaf that you're using. And there it is. That's it. All right, and the air layering method, which I mentioned at the beginning, which is my personal favorite method. I find it has the best results. It is the safest method in the sense that it creates roots in the process before you cut it from the plant. So I just went snip, 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 and it's been pulled away from the mother plant. It doesn't have the mother plant supporting it to grow the roots. Whereas with air layering, you have that support of the mother plant. So what we would do is we would take some of the sphagnum moss that we used in the last one, put it in a square of plastic, and we wrap it around a node where we see the roots have the potential to grow. We wrap it around like so. We take some kind of twist tie, whatever kind you like, and carefully place that around the plastic. There we go. Making sure it's not squeezing on the node, the little brown bump that I talked about. Make sure it's not pushing on that. But we have wet sphagnum moss around it attached to the plant, and we wait. And it can take weeks, it can take maybe a month, it depends on the plant, but eventually the roots for the new plant are growing inside of there, and then when you have a substantial root system, then you chop it from the mother plant, and you can put it straight into the soil or substrate of your choice. And I have a few examples here. My Periso Verde, it only has one leaf now because I chopped it just before this video so that I can show you some of the new chopped Periso Verdes that had been air layered. And you can see this one has a long root here. It has a little one on this side. And I have this one, which is quite awesome. It has many long roots already started. So this one especially is going to do very well, I'm sure. One thing to keep in mind when you're chopping like this, I've got this small plant that I've chopped. It's very different than this situation. When I do this, I have to think about the fact that the plant that was just chopped, the original, the mama, it's going to regrow leaves that are going to be like really small baby leaves. So you have to keep that in mind. It's going to take a while for them to size up again as they start coming in. Like eventually they'll come in as big as the original, but it will take a few leaves before it gets up to that size again. But the top cutting, so there, in this case I've got 3. I've got the bottom, the base, the original. I've got the mid cut and then the top cut. This is the top cut. This one is going to produce larger leaves right away. The top cut, it stays the size that the plant was already producing leaves at. So this one's going to be the best one to keep. And that's why you'll often see online when people are selling cuttings or propagated cuttings, they sell the top cuts for more money because they're going to be bigger, which is great. So yeah, we've got these ones with roots already produced and they can be put straight into substrate. I've already got a pot here ready to go. I'm gonna put some substrate in it. Maybe I will tilt the camera down so you can see. So we are going to talk about chunks. I was really, really happy when I learned about the fact that this could be all that you needed to grow a plant. This is really exciting because when you have a plant that is dying, and let's say, for example, you get an order of plants come in and shipping was really hard on them, or maybe they go into shipping shock later, whatever. But either way, like it's dying and you're really afraid you're going to lose it. Maybe all the leaves are dead and the roots are dead, but maybe the stem or the vine is still green. And if it still has some life in it, you can cut everything down to one node, like you see here in my hand, and potentially grow the plant all over again from this. Now, this particular node, as I mentioned before, is my Queen Anthurium node. Unfortunately, it is a sad story, the fact that I'm down to just this, but as Queen Anthuriums often do, she went into shock very shortly after I brought her home, and I did my best to keep her lush and happy, and I thought I was doing well, but yeah, I lost the fight after almost a month, and now I'm down to this, but I'm not without hope because this chunk has been showing a lot of signs of growth. When I first cut it up, it was actually very yellow, and there was just like a tiny hint of green on one part of this, and now it's all green. So I am really, really hopeful. I think it's going well, and I don't know if the camera will show you, I don't know if you'll see it really well, but let's see, right there, there is a tiny, tiny little piece of green that's like a different color than the other shade of green, and it's a circle shape. That, I believe, is an attempt of a leaf or a root to come out. So I'm going to keep at this and hope it goes well. So you might be wondering, like, okay, what do you do with this thing? It's all hope and dandy, but how do I do it? What do I do? So basically, you need a mix of, well, I prefer to use a mix of sphagnum moss, perlite, and if you can get your hands on it, something called stratum. Let me show you that. Fluval stratum. It comes from volcanoes, and it's very mineral rich, as it says on the bag, and it helps, oh, there, my cat is sniffing. Sorry about that. So it helps to encourage root growth. Excuse my cough. And as soon as you set that up in a little terrarium, a terrarium is best for a chunk because it does allow for the humidity to be kept well. So once you get that in the base of your terrarium, you can just literally just plop this down. Make sure you've got the some of the stratum on top. Looks like I got some there. And place it like so. I like to tuck the sphagnum moss around the sides a little bit, nestle it in just like this. Put the lid on it, and then keep it somewhere with good light and ideally warmth. I have heard that if you put a heat mat too high, you can burn them. I haven't used heat mats, but I do keep this in my Millsbow cabinet on the second shelf of my Millsbow cabinet because I find it's really, really warm on that shelf. I'm looking at the little monitor that I have on the second shelf of my Millsbow, and it says 25.5 degrees, and I've seen it go even as high as 27. Because heat rises, obviously, so in this big glass box, I end up with a lot of heat up there. So it's the best place to keep it, and yeah, I'm very hopeful. I will let you all know how it goes. Wish me luck, and I wish you luck with any chunks you decide to try to grow. So that's it for today. I hope that you found this helpful, and if you have any questions, you can pop them down below in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this and you'd like to see more. And if you have any other tips that you'd like to add, feel free to put those in the comments as well. I'd love for the community to help each other in my comments section. That's always a nice thing. And that's it. Bye. Okay, well, that's it for today.